Ever since a possessed doll showed up on my doorstep and began to haunt my house, I've learned quite a few things about fear. Everything from blood-curdling howling outside my bedroom door at midnight to the sudden chilling realization that one is being watched. I thought all these experiences would have prepared me for anything. This coronavirus shit is somehow scarier than living with an actual demon. At least with Shitwaffle, and yes, I named the evil doll Shitwaffle. If you didn't know this already, then you should probably read the first 7 posts I made about it. Anyway, at least with Shitwaffle, there's the knowledge that if I get killed, which is unlikely since I think that we're pretty cool nowadays, the world will go on, even after I'm dead. You know, people will still walk down the streets. Friends will still drink at bars and tell hilarious stories and laugh together. Customers will still demand to see the manager about things that employees have no control over, like the color of a dress. Call me crazy. But it's kind of comforting to me to know this. You know, the world, it won't stop just because I do. Not that I have a death wish. There's a ton of stuff that I still want to do on this earth. But, you know, I'm pretty zen about my own fragile mortality. That's why seeing empty sidewalks and the usual bustling downtown, it scares me. You know, I know logically that the world won't actually end. Even if we do go into a zombie apocalypse scenario, grass will still grow, clouds will still drift across the sky, the planet will continue to turn. But it's still terrifying. You know, change is terrifying. We might return to our normal lives after this pandemic dies down, but you know, things will be different. Wow, I'm getting all kinds of morbid. All this isolation gives me way too much time to overthink things. Also, way too much time to rewatch old movies over and over again. Who knew a crisis would be so goddamn boring and scary at the same time? Orson Welles once said, "There are only 2 emotions on a plane, boredom and terror." I think that's applicable to this situation. Except in this case, it's sitting on your couch, bored out of your mind, with sudden intermittent bouts of stress because of, I mean, how the fuck are you going to pay your mortgage when you can't even go to your job anymore? And then, once you wear yourself out worrying about all that, it's back to lounging around, nothing to do, nowhere to go. Sure, I don't have to tell you about how frustrating it is, since we're all experiencing it together. Fortunately for me, I got a roommate who's very distracting. Whenever I start to fall into depression, something in the house will suddenly catch on fire, or levitate. I'm not sure if Shitwaffle does this on purpose to get me out of my slump, or if it's just as bored as I am. But either way, I'm grateful. I mean, well, not exactly grateful. I spent a whole weekend scrubbing soot off the walls. But you get the idea. There's not a whole lot to do around here anyway. I mean, I actually started doing arts and crafts because I was so restless. Arts and crafts! Not something I ever imagined myself doing after kindergarten, but it's actually kind of fun. Sadly, I don't have a lot of art supplies, so some improvisation is necessary. Most of my creations come out looking like the kind of dumpster art that you see in front of the lone gas stations in the middle of a long road trip. Still, I'm kind of proud of the stuff that I create. Sure, maybe it's made out of cut-up old pajama pants or empty glass bottles, but hey, it's something that I made, you know, all by myself. Shitwaffle does not seem to feel the same way about my endeavors into the world of art. After spending hours trying to figure out how to sew a little face mask for my doll friend, it repaid my hard work with heartless destruction. Okay, maybe it was made from old socks, and maybe dolls don't actually need face masks, but finding my sewing projects torn to shreds as if eaten from the inside out only an hour after putting it on Shitwaffle's face, that was a bit disheartening. You know, and also terrifying. The thing was a mangled mess by the time the doll was done with it. There are some creative things that we enjoy doing together, though. A few weeks ago, in a fit of boredom, I dug out some old jigsaw puzzles from the depths of my closet, and I set out one of the coffee tables to work on in my spare time. My grandma bought me a ton of them, you know, when I was a kid. And not those lame, child-friendly puzzles, too. No, me and Grandma, we worked on the badass 1,000-plus piece puzzle sets. Whole undersea adventures, sprawling flower gardens, ponds, and terraces. Anyway, a few days in, I noticed that parts would be completed that I didn't remember working on. It's not much at first, see, just a few puzzle pieces here and there. Then it became bigger. A whole school of fish fit together one day, an entire dolphin the next. I didn't think much of it until I walked in on Shitwaffle, sitting on the coffee table one day, back turned to me and humming a little tune under its breath. I froze in the doorway. heart in my throat, terrified that the possessed doll was maliciously dismembering the jigsaw that I put hours on. And then I realized it was putting pieces together, not taking them apart. So I admit, I gasped happily, and I clapped my hands together in sheer delight. Finally, another puzzle lover. See, Shitwaffle whipped around at the noise and seemed extremely embarrassed to be caught doing something so normal, but relaxed as I gushed about having a puzzle partner and regaled it with stories of grandmother. And ever since then, we always have a jigsaw puzzle set out in various states of jumbled near completion. It's actually been a lot of fun, you know, except for the time that Shitwaffle got mad at me for some reason and hid the final piece so that I couldn't finish the one that we'd been working on. It drove me crazy. Not being able to find that last piece, the almost perfect picture mocking me with its single hole every time I walked through the living room. I didn't even suspect the doll, and I wasted a lot of time searching between couch cushions and worrying that I'd vacuumed it up. Finally, Shitwaffle had mercy on me and returned the missing puzzle piece. My fury and relief, that must have been a sight to behold. Another activity that we've done together since this whole self-isolation business began is playing cards. Now, you'd think that it would be hard with an opponent whose fingers are, you know, stuck together, whose poker face is literally immovable, and you'd be right. It's really fucking difficult, but that just makes it all the more satisfying to beat. Although I will confess that I did rage quit once after picking up and moving the cards for Shitwaffle in an entire game, only for the little smug bastard to levitate the final card, a 4 of clubs, in one winning move. I was so pissed that the evil doll had made me think that it couldn't hold the cards itself that I refused to play for the rest of the day. Well, sometimes I'm afraid that with my only companion in quarantine being a chaotic demon, it's going to end up with me losing my mind. So I miss the days when I could go out and I could talk to regular human beings. Even the homeless dude by the Home Depot who liked to talk to me about the lizard people controlling our government. I hope, you know, I hope he's doing okay in this pandemic. He's actually a pretty chill guy. When I think back a month ago or so, it seems like another lifetime. Having someone knock on my door, speak face to face with me, it seems inconceivable now, even though it's only been a few weeks since the last Jehovah's Witness came by. Of course, the reason they've stopped coming might have also been because of Shitwaffle. The man who stopped by last time got quite a fright. I might as well tell the whole story since I have nothing better to do than to reminisce about when people were allowed within 6 feet of each other. It started out as a fairly standard interaction. So he knocked on the door. I dragged myself off the couch. He pretended not to notice my ridiculous pajamas as he told me about the good news. And I wasn't really paying attention. I prepared to make some excuse so that I could go back to eating cereal out of a coffee mug. My bowls were all dirty. I was too lazy to wash them. And of course, that's when Shitwaffle decided to cause some mischief. The Jehovah's Witness twitched nervously when the first banging resounded from the back of the house. Then another sounded, closer this time. I got a bad feeling that Shitwaffle was up to no good and attempted to convince the man to leave, but he was rooted to the spot. His fingers grew white from clutching his Bible so hard as the loud banging became faster and faster, closer and closer, coming to a crescendo. The final door in the hallway slammed open to reveal a little ceramic doll with its dead eyes speedily crawling on the ceiling like a giant pale spider directly towards us. And understandably, the Jehovah's Witness shrieked at the top of his lungs, reflexively flung the Bible with full force at the demonic creature, and sprinted away down the street as fast as his feet could carry him. The heavy book didn't manage to hit my roommate, who had dropped gracefully to the floor and was looking quite pleased with itself. Yeah, laugh it up, I rolled my eyes, annoyed but not surprised by the doll's prank on unsuspecting visitors. He had a good chuckle, and at the end of the day, you'll still look like a constipated baby. That wiped the smirk off my roommate's face. My gaze fell on the Bible left on the ground, splayed open to a random page from its unsuccessful tour as a ballistic missile. I figured the Jehovah's Witness wasn't coming back for it anytime soon, so I shrugged and I put it on a bookshelf. I actually forgot about it until recently when sifting through my collection for something to read during the shelter-in-place order that my state put us under. It caught my eye, and I figured that I'd give the holy book a shot, since, I've never actually read it before. I'm hoping for some insight into demons, what my living situation is and all. But so far, I've only gotten through Genesis, and all I found is an uncomfortable amount of stories about incest. Like, there's this one about this guy named Abraham, And at one point, he goes to live in a foreign country. Well, the king comes by, spots Abraham's wife, and is like, "Who's that? She's sexy." And Abraham thinks to himself, "Oh shit, if the king finds out she's my wife, he'll have me killed so he can marry her himself." So Abraham tells the king she's his sister. The king, thinking she's a hot single in his area, takes her to his castle. But that night, God comes to the king and says, "You fucked up, bro. You're going after a married woman. Now I'm gonna fuck you up." So frightened, the king rushes to Abraham and asks, "Why the hell did you lie to me about Sarah being your sister? Now God's gonna fuck up my shit because of you." And Abraham replies, "Haha, nah bro, I didn't lie. She is my sister and my wife. Not my fault you didn't think of that." The king's like, "Oh, okay, my bad. Here, have all this silver and land and livestock and shit. Please tell God not to fuck me up real bad." And everyone lived happily ever after, the end. So yeah, the Bible's pretty weird. Does it get better? Let me know if you guys think it's worth finishing. Not that I'm implying that the church is a 1,000-year-old book club that exists solely to recommend books to me, you know. Anyway, I'm not sure if I should keep the book in the house in the first place. Shitwaffle really doesn't seem to like it. When I started reading the Bible, the doll disappeared for several days. Didn't leave the house. I mean, I could tell because the bumping and scraping sounds inside the walls, they couldn't come from anything but Shitwaffle, as all living creatures shun my house nowadays. Not that I'm complaining, you know, free pest control, all that. Although it would have been nice to have some warning the first time that I found a decapitated head of a raccoon on my porch. You know, looking back sometimes, I think that Shitwaffle may have been trying to actually frighten me in the early days of our cohabitation. I felt kind of bad I didn't notice. But I'm glad we get along now. It was just the other day after I tucked myself into bed, all comfortable and ready to sleep, I realized that I'd forgotten to turn off the light. I really, really didn't want to get out of bed, so I called out, "Hey, Shitwaffle, can you turn off the lights?" And amazingly, my roommate actually listened. I'm sure all the power cut off from my house for the next 12 hours, but it got the job done. It really warms my heart. You know that deep down, Shitwaffle does care. Okay, so I'm about to post this when something came up, and I figured I'd include it, so sit back down, because boy, I have a story to tell. You know in all those movies, ghosts need to complete some unfinished business to move on to the next plane or whatever, right? Well, I saw that shit firsthand. Now before you panic, no, it wasn't Shitwaffle. Shitwaffle is perfectly fine, still causing chaos in my house. In fact, I'm not even sure Shitwaffle's a real ghost or of a dead human. Seems more like a demon or something to me. Anyway, I was at the DMV yesterday, right? I won't bore you with all the details of why I was there. Suffice to say, it was the usual dull reasons, nothing exciting. Now, if you've ever been to the DMV, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that all DMVs have a bizarre aura to them, right? Time moves slower, the air tastes different, and the improbable mixture of stale and energized, flashing numbers hypnotize until words lose all meaning. I firmly believe that the Department of Motor Vehicles exists outside of our reality in a strange pocket dimension of its own. I mean, once I ran into two of my exes while waiting in line at the DMV. I hadn't seen either of them in years. We didn't even live in the same area anymore, so it was a bit of a surprise to see them, especially both at once. We caught up, it was kind of awkward, so one of them decided to relieve the tension by showing us YouTube videos so that we wouldn't have to really talk to each other while stuck in line. The videos were really strange, and I didn't understand them at all, though they might have been because of the dissociative effect of the DMV, but whatever, right? I remember they were about an unidentifiable creature who spoke in soft rhymes that gave the whole video a bizarre, dreamlike quality. When I finally left the cursed hole in reality known as the DMV, I realized that 5 hours had passed. That was a really weird day. I'm getting off track. The point is that the Department of Motor Vehicles is a strange place. Even under normal circumstances. Amidst the pandemic, it's even stranger. Instead of reducing the weird effect inside the building, the lack of crowds of people jostling each other caused the large room to become even eerier. On the day I went, it was like a ghost town. Pun intended. For some god-awful reason, despite being the only person in line, I still had to do a lot of waiting, while bureaucratic things beyond my mortal comprehension happened behind desks. I decided to use the bathroom just in case. I've never actually been in a bathroom in the DMV before. The fear of losing my place in line was always too great. And once the paperwork is done, I always wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. Anyway, I was listening to the sound of my piss echoing in the empty bathroom and wondering if it was always that loud, when suddenly the fluorescent light overhead flickered and went out. I panicked. imagining that the department was closing and the employees would accidentally lock me in here. One of my worst fears. When I noticed a familiar greenish glow emanating from underneath one of the stalls. Oh, thank fuck. I breathed a sigh of relief, no longer rushing to zip up my fly. It's just a ghost. With Shitwaffle as my roommate, I've had a few encounters with ghosts before, but I'd never met one outside of the parties thrown by my haunted doll. I wasn't sure what to do, especially when a low moan came from the glowing bathroom stall. The sound conveyed such pain and misery that I felt it in my gut. Do you need some toilet paper? I asked, being very familiar with the agony of an empty roll and no toilet paper in range. No, I need to go, was the response. Ah, constipation, I nodded sympathetically, idly washing my hands. Oh, that's the worst, man. This wretched person probably died while desperately needing to go to the bathroom, holding it all in until their final breaths. That was their unfinished business. No, to do their business. To take a shit. But then it hit me. Ghosts can't poop. The tortured soul in the bathroom stall would never have closure because it's physically impossible for an intangible being to release its non-existent bowels. The thought of a painful entity holding in a shit made me shudder. I solemnly vowed to myself that I would ease the spirit's discomfort. And I'm coming in, I warned, but don't worry, my eyes are closed, I quickly added, not wanting to see, ghost junk, or invade the other's privacy. With all my might, I kicked the stall door open and fumbled around until I found the toilet handle and yanked it hard. I waited for the echoing flush to die down before I dared open my eyes again. The only glow left was that of the exit sign above the door. Flushing the toilet had worked. I mean, the symbolic act of flushing the toilet had relieved the phantom's psychosomatic desire to take a dump. Later, I realized that I may have only flushed the ghost down into the sewer. But by then, I was already home, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Shitwaffle, of course, found that hilarious. Oh well. I did my best. And I think that's what really matters in the end. Hey there, kids. It's me, Mrcreepypasta, and thank you so much for listening to tonight's story. Whether it be an episode of something, or tonight's podcast, or tonight's YouTube. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I strongly encourage you to click subscribe so that you're able to get all of the updates for the YouTube series that currently go on. And if you're not on YouTube and you're listening on the podcast, thank you for listening on Spotify, or on Google, or on iTunes, or wherever you happen to be listening from. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons, and you can always join them at patreon.com/Mrcreepypasta. People like Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Ken Lando Higuchi, Brianna Van Tine-Janzen, Chompski, TheRedOakShieldVirus, Sindee Barney, G Weevil 3, Diana Kraus, Stephen VanHuss, Chance Burnett, Tristain Pelton, Nico, TheGingerBroz, Dante Rowe, Raphael Rodriguez, Lastbladesong, Eliminator 86, Nebsky, SteampunkSinner, Kaleb Dougal, Daniel Poulsen, Sky Harbor, The Homeless Bird 93, Bobby Carmen, Liam Newman, Aaron Stormcrow, Barbara Macedo, Thomas Burgett, Azazel Rotten, Let's Get Scared, S-Man, Andrew Kirisuba Warnock, Bad Honey, Creepypasta Adam, Someone You Love, Brennan Wright, Said the King 56, and Somber Puppet. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, to all of you on Patreon, you guys that are down there in the description, and everyone else. And thank you all for listening and watching and being subscribed. Sweet dreams.